Hello everyone, I am Soumya Sefalika Tripathi. I have done my master from Guru Ghazda Central University Bilaspur, and currently I am mentoring student and I have 4 years of experience in teaching biology. Also I currently live in Hyderabad. Okay, so for today's topic we have biological classification, right? So what is a biological classification? It is the hierarchical arrangement of groups, like the living organism, hierarchical arrangement of living organism into groups based on their present characteristics. Okay, so in the simple term it will be called as the arrangement of organism into different groups based on their characters, right? Okay, so while talking about the biological classification, there have been many scientists who have classified the living system into various groups, but we will talk about the most recent and the very advanced method, not going back to the very centuries back, and we will talk about the very first system of classification, that is the artificial system of classification. So artificial system of classification was based on the living organism, where they have characterized the different organism groups into like based on their food, their shelter, their living habitat, and how we are using the living organisms. In that way they have classified the artificial system of classification, and it only based on the morphology of the organism. Okay, then comes the Aristotle means of classification. Aristotle means of classification was the very first scientific method of classification, that is also mentioned in your biology book, and this is very important for your NEET point of view. Okay, so let's talk about the Aristotle means of classification. Aristotle's classification. Okay, so here what Aristotle does was he classified all the living system, like all the plants, into three groups, that is herb, shrubs and trees. You all aware about what a herb, shrubs and trees are? You all know that. Also he classified all the animals into two groups, that is anima, those who have RBCs in blood, and anima, that means they do not have RBCs in blood. They do not have RBCs in their blood. Okay, so Aristotle means of classification was very simple, and also it was advanced up to each point of time. But as the scientific methods progresses, there have been discovery of various microorganisms, like they discovered algae, fungus and many other things. So this discovery was seems quite a bit older, and there comes another man whose name is Carolus Linnaeus. He gave the two kingdom classification, right? So in the two kingdom system of classification, what Linnaeus does was he classified all the living beings into two categories, that is kingdom Plantae and kingdom Animalia, right? So he doesn't take into account into any of the character, like whether the cell structure, how is the thallus organization, how is the nutrition, but when he found everything that is similar to plant, he named it as a kingdom Plantae. He put it under the kingdom Plantae, and other thing, that is where he found all the organism that were similar to animals, he placed it under the kingdom Animalia. Okay, so we will talk about the demerits of two kingdom system of classification now. So the first demerit of the two kingdom classification was he placed all the blue green algae, fungus, many bacteria and bryophytes, and many other plants, because under the kingdom Plantae, because they have cell wall. Okay, something that have cell wall, he put it under the kingdom Plantae, but that is not a correct method of classification, right? He put autotroph plants and heterotrophs animal, I mean to say heterotrophs fungus in the same group Plantae. Again, he also placed the unicellular Chlamydomonas with multicellular, I'm writing it in shortcut because we have lesson time, in the multicellular Spirogyra under the same kingdom Plantae. Again, he placed the prokaryotic cell bacteria with eukaryotic blue-green algae under the same group, that is Plantae. Again, what it does is, in the fifth point, he put the cell wall, he classified on the basis of cell wall, but the cell wall of fungus is chitinaceous, that is made up of chitin, and plants who have a cellulosic cell wall under the same group Plantae. Okay, so you got it. Now I'm talking about it. Okay, so he put all the blue-green algae, fungus, bacteria, bryophyta, all the cell wall having organisms into only one group, that is kingdom Plantae. All the autotrophs and heterotrophs have been put together in the kingdom Plantae. Also the unicellular and multicellular, although Chlamydomonas and Spirogyra are algae, but he put it under the kingdom Plantae. Also the prokaryotic cell, that is the bacteria, and the eukaryotic blue-green algae, who have very different characteristics, are put under the kingdom Plantae. Similar for the fungus and plant. Although fungus have a chitinous cell wall and the plants have a cellulosic cell wall, they all have been put together in one kingdom only. So this is very difficult for everyone to identify all the organisms from a very vast group. So hence there was a need for another kingdom of classification when there was a discovery of the microorganisms, the micro world. After the discovery of micro world, there was a need that this microorganisms should be placed under some different, they have different criteria, so they must have to be placed under another kingdom. Okay, so thereafter it comes the three kingdom classification. Okay, the three kingdom classification, where the system of classification was divided into plants, animals, and protista. It was given by Ernst Haeckel. But this protista have a heterogeneous group of both multicellular organism and unicellular prokaryote and unicellular eukaryote, prokaryote and eukaryote. They have been put together. So there was a need of another system of classification, that is the four kingdom classification system, that was given by Copeland. Okay, and he divided all the living world into four kingdoms, that is kingdom plants, animals, Monera and Protista. Okay, so here we can see the fungus have not been separated because the fungus, as we all know, they are heterotrophic organism. They do not have chlorophyll. They are heterotrophs, and also their cell wall is made up of chitin, and they are very different from all these groups. So the need to put the fungus in separate group was felt, and thereafter the five kingdom classification was come into consideration. So okay, it was given in 1969 by R.H. Whitaker. Okay, so the five kingdom classification system was given by R.H. Whitaker in 1969. He classified all the living organisms into five groups, that is kingdom Monera, kingdom Protista, kingdom Fungi, kingdom Plantae and kingdom Animalia. Okay, so what he taken into consideration before before classifying all this group, that is first one is cell structure, whether the cell is unicellular or multicellular. Then the cell type, that is eukaryotic or prokaryotic, right? Then he taken into consideration the mode of nutrition, whether it is heterotrophic or autotrophic. Then reproduction, method of reproduction, and the most important one is the phylogenetic relationship. Okay, so the phylogenetic relationship actually takes into account about the ancestral history of an organism. So what is an ancestral history? That it represents how an organism is connected to its ancestor by what means. Okay, if we consider that line, the study is completely separated from all the other groups, and it followed all the method of classification that is very advanced, up to date. Okay, so till date we are using this five kingdom system of classification. This is the most advanced term of classification, and in your NCERT book we will also study this. We will also follow this five kingdom system of classification only, that is Monera, Protista, Fungus, Plantae and Animalia. Okay, so there is a table mentioned in your NCERT book that is very important from your NEET point of view also, and many questions have come from for every year. The question comes from every year from this table only. Okay, so let's talk about this table and study it in a detail. Okay, so the cell type for the Monera, the cell type is prokaryotic. It is a prokaryote. Protista, it is a eukaryote. Fungus is a eukaryote. Plantae is also eukaryote. Animalia is also eukaryote, right? The cell wall of Monera is composed of peptidoglycan, that is protein plus polysaccharide. Okay, for the Protista, many of the Protista species do not have cell wall. Many absent for many. Okay, for the fungus, the cell wall is made up of chitin. For the Plantae, it is cellulosic, and for Animalia it is absent since animal do not have cell wall. Okay. Then the nuclear membrane, as Monera is a prokaryote, the nuclear membrane is absent here. Protista, it is a eukaryote, the nuclear membrane is present. Fungus is also eukaryote, the nuclear membrane is present. For Plantae, it is also present. Animalia, it is also present. Body organization, for the Monera, it is unicellular. Protista is also unicellular. Fungus is multicellular. For the Plantae, it is multicellular with organs. For the Animalia, it has tissue arrangement. Also, the Plantae has a tissue arrangement. Tissue system is present in Plantae also. Animalia tissue system is present. Organs is present. Also, it is very important that Animalia have organ system. While talking about the mode of nutrition, Monera is autotrophic as well as heterotrophic. Okay. For Protista, same, it is autotrophic as well as heterotrophic. Fungus is always a heterotroph. Plantae is always an autotroph, and Animalia is always a heterotroph. So this is the table. This table is very important from your NEET point of view and for all the exams. Okay. So this is the 5 kingdom system of classification, and now we will talk about in details about the demerits of the 5 kingdom system of classification. Five kingdom demerits. Okay, so the first demerit of the 5 kingdom classification was Chlamydomonas and Chlorella. Chlamydomonas have cell wall. Both have the Chlorella, Chlamydomonas both have cell wall. They have chloroplast and they are photosynthetic. Okay. Also, this system, both the Chlamydomonas and Chlorella both are algae, and they have been put together with protozoans like amoeba and paramecium, which is again they do not have cell wall, no chloroplast and non-photosynthetic. So this is a very important drawbacks of this system of 5 kingdom of classification system, where the Chlamydomonas and Chlorella, which was earlier placed in the separate group of the plant kingdom, and now it has been put together with amoeba and paramecium together with kingdom Protista. Okay, so this is a very important drawbacks. Also, in the lower groups, the distinctive features are not actually reflected, clearly not reflected. For kingdom Monera and Protista, features are uncleared. So this is a very important 2 points drawbacks that is present in your 5 kingdom system of classification. Although there are many drawbacks to this system, but this is mentioned in your book. This 2 is only mentioned in your book. So there has been actually modification from time to time to which one is the proper method of classification, but there is no such justification of all this, since there are very vast group, and differentiating them on the basis of their characteristic is very difficult. Okay, so for the after the 5 kingdom system of classification, there actually comes another system of classification that is not mentioned in your book, but I am telling you because it is a very advanced group of classification, that is the three domain classification. Three domain classification system, where all the living organisms have been categorized into three domains, that is archaea, eubacteria and eukarya. So in the eubacteria we have bacteria, that is the Monera, that is the true bacteria. In the archaea, all the primitive bacteria. Okay, and for the eukarya we have protista, fungi, plantae and animals, I mean. Okay, so this is the three domain system of classification. This is not necessarily needed and also not mentioned in your NCERT book, but it is very important from your NEET point of view. Okay, so we talk about all of this, and I hope this is well understood to you. So let's revise very quickly. So we first talked about the biological classification, then we talked about the artificial system of classification. In the artificial system of classification, we talk about the Aristotle classification, where he divided all the plants into three parts, that is the herbs, shrubs and trees, and all the animals into two groups, that is anima and anima. Then we talk about the two kingdom classification system that was given by Carolus Linnaeus. It was a very vast system of classification where he divided all the living organisms into kingdom Plantae and kingdom Animalia. Then comes the three kingdom classification, which was given by Ernst Haeckel, where he divided Protista into another group. Then four kingdom classification, that was given by Copeland, and he added Monera to the three kingdom classification system, right? Then we talked about the five kingdom system of classification, which is very widely used, up to date, and we have in the five kingdom classification system we have Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. We talked about them. Okay, and this is the very important table that is mentioned in your book, and you have to go through this again. And we talked about the demerits of two kingdom classification and the five kingdom classification system, right? So rest we will talk in the next class about the kingdom Monera in detailed way. Okay, for today, thank you.